we have the regional coordinator, Mr. Peter Dupont, who is currently stationed in Bangkok. And we also have our national coordinator, Susan Porel. I am Bishwa Amatye on behalf of RECON, and also I'm also the advisor of PFAN as well. I would love to welcome you all to this event. This will be our today's program. After I briefly welcome you all, we will go into presentation by first by Mr. Peter Dupont, and then second, Susan Porel-ji from Nepal will give his presentation on how PFAN can assist the project developers. Prior to that, Mr. Peter would actually tell us what is PFAN and how it operates and how it can be useful for Nepal. And our third and last presentation today will be from our Madhusudan Adhikari. He is Executive Director, as many of you know already, and he will be talking with us about how AEPC or the government is supporting private sector to realize financing to implement or to develop these renewable energy projects. After during three presentations, you are welcome to put your queries and comments on the chat box. We will be monitoring the chat box, and then if there are simple answers, we will probably also try to answer on the chat box also, just to save time. Nonetheless, once all three presentations are complete, then we will monitor all the questions on the chat box and try to get those questions to the presenters, namely the Peter, Susanji, and the Madhusudanji. After the question answer session, which will last for about 25 minutes, then we will look at it how we can go ahead in terms of, can someone switch that mic off for some, whoever is making that noise? Sorry for that disturbances. And then Susanji will briefly pick it up, how we can go forward and make use of this very interesting, useful resources that is available with us from PFAN. After that, we will try to conclude it and with some remarks from myself, if we find it necessary. Otherwise, Mr. Gunaraj Dakal will give his vote of thanks to all, and then we'll close the session. That's the agenda for today. With that, I would like to give you a brief introduction of Mr. Peter. Like, he has more than 30 years of experience in developing sustainable energy, climate programs, etc. And he, in US as well as Asia, he has extensive expertise in design, implementation, evaluation of energy policy plans and projects, also in climate finance and also energy efficiency projects. He has assumed various roles in the past, from consulting to managing non-profit organizations, private sector organizations, consulting companies, development agencies, so on and so forth. So that would be very brief his thing. And Peter is currently based in Bangkok, that I have already told you. He's managing partner of also Asia Clean Energy Partners. An international consulting company or consultancy that initiates partnerships and initiatives that accelerate the pace of clean energy investment and deployment. Since 2007, he has been also the co-chair of Asia Clean Energy Forum, a flagship clean energy event organized annually by the ADB, the US Agency for International Development, and KEA, or Korea Energy Agency. And similarly, he has a master's degree in public health from California, University of California, Berkeley, and a PhD in energy environment policy from University of Delaware. That would be his brief introduction. After that, we will have presentation from Susan and from Mr. Adhikari. I will introduce them once their turn comes. With that, I would like to stop my sharing this screen. And let Mr. Peter share his slides from his laptop and begin his presentation. Over to you, Mr.
Thank you, Vishwa. Thank you so much. Namaskar. I'm so sorry that I can't be there in Nepal, but it is good that we can have these virtual meetings like this. The last time I was there was a couple of years ago. I was mountain biking in the Himalaya. It was a very exciting trip, and I hope to be able to come back soon when the pandemic subsides. So thank you for that kind introduction. I'm going to talk about PFAN, what it is and how it works, and our track record. And so if we look at the marketplace, if you're talking about climate and clean energy projects, which is the area where we work and where APC is really focused, you have a lot of project developers who have good technologies and lots of knowledge of the markets that they work in, but sometimes they lack the ability to speak investor language. They often have challenges organizing the business model, and unrealistic expectations about how to raise money. So on the other side, there's a lot of money that's parked or ready for investment. But among the investors or bankers, there's often a lack of familiarity with the markets, the lack of familiarity with the technologies, and also it's very hard for them to see if they invest $1 or $2 million or $5 million, how they can get their money out. There's a limited number of exits, and that acts as a barrier. So this is where PFAN comes in. We address the missing middle. We're the person on the left with the sort of final piece of the puzzle to help make the connection between the project developer and the investor. So what we do, you can see at the bottom, we advise low carbon, climate resilient businesses in developing countries, and we match projects to financing. So it's an important point that APC is focused on energy, and PFAN has been focused on energy for most of its 12 years, but we are now open to a wide variety of climate adaptation and resilience projects beyond just energy, and I'll talk about that later. But really, almost all the projects that we've been coaching, or most of them over the past 12 years, and even now, most of them are clean energy projects. So this is picture of the world and where we work. So we have about 6 regions around the world where we work, and Asia is one of our biggest, is our biggest area actually, if you include Central Asia and Eastern Europe. But just in South Asia alone, we have 21 advisors. We have several in Nepal. In Southeast Asia, we have 23 PFAN advisors. We have a total of 130 advisors. So this is our network. We're not a company. We're not a nonprofit. We're actually a network of experts, experts with experience in climate and clean energy financing. So the way we work is we have these expert advisors, and we provide coaching and investment facilitation. the coaching happens first because you can't do the investment facilitation until the coaching has been done and the project is really ready to present to an investor. So the coaching is free for the companies, for the project developers. It's paid for by development donor money. The advisors get a fixed fee for the coaching they provide. It's not pro bono, but it's fairly limited. One advisor, if he coaches a project all the way through completion, could get about $6,000 or $7,000. Now, compared to normal business advisory, that's that's on the low side. But the advisors, they're really top-notch people, and they also work for success fees once you get to the stage of investment facilitation. So that's important. We're not just another donor project that provides workshops and technical assistance, and then we go away and it's hard to measure the results. Our advisors are accountable for helping the project developers really hone their business plans and their investment pitch decks, and then get financing. So we have a lot of different investment and network partners, and AEPC is a good example of a network partner to help us with this event and to get the word out and to find common cause to work together. So UNIDO is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and they're the host of PFAN. And they basically run a multi-donor trust fund. And so you can see the donors there from Sweden to Australia to USAID to Norway to Japan and Germany. And the Kigali initiative is a global cooling program. We have a special call for efficient low energy cooling projects, which is one of the things we do as well. So that's how we work. And as I mentioned earlier, we are really open to a wide range of projects. In Nepal, we've mostly focused on mini hydro projects. We've done quite a lot. Those are great projects because you have PPAs, you have a lot of companies in Nepal that have done this before. And with the PPA, it's pretty easy, relatively easy to get investment because the PPA is, a bankable document. But lately, Sujan has been expanding the project origination to include solar and some biofuels and biogas. And we really cover a whole range of areas that one would not normally think of when one thinks of PFAN. Tourism, so ecotourism, sustainable tourism, forestry, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from deforestation, for example, water and sanitation, even health. So there's a broad range of areas that are eligible for projects, and that's an important message I have today, especially given the fragility, the relative fragility and vulnerability of Nepal to climate change. So when we select projects, we're basically, we're selecting them for coaching. The first three things that the project has to be, it has to be commercially viable, it has to be technically viable, and they have to have an experienced management team. Okay, so those three things sort of go without saying. And what's maybe different about PFAN is we're also looking at the climate impact, and we're looking at development and gender impact. Those are important in our selection criteria. So the types of projects we're looking at are typically $1 to $50 million projects. That means that they are seeking somewhere in that range. Now, in Cambodia and sometimes in Nepal and some other countries, we get smaller projects that are seeking 100,000, 200,000 early stage investment. And so we don't turn those projects away. In fact, some of those projects For example, in Cambodia, we've helped them with the first raise of 300,000 and a second raise of 800,000, and they're going for a third raise of 2 million. So we do stick with the company over time, and sometimes we start when they're a bit smaller. The project types I've already talked about. We are technology neutral. We really do not promote any specific technology. And then we only work in least developed countries or middle income countries. So, we recently had a really interesting company from Switzerland that has a small scale wind technology, and they applied, and we could not accept them until they start developing projects in the Philippines, which is where they're working. So we won't give funding to companies that are, say, based in Europe or based in the US unless they have a market they're attacking or they're approaching in Asia or the developing world. So these are our results. We are focused on SDG 7, which is energy, but obviously the work that we do has impacts on SDG 9, industry, SDG 13, climate action, and SDG 17, which is partnerships. So over the past 12 years, we've looked at about 1,000 projects. That means we've gotten over 1,000 applications. And I can answer any questions about applications, but basically when a company applies, they fill out a form and they submit a business plan and some financial information. Of those 1,000 plus projects, we've coached about 675, and we've closed about 126 projects. So what does that mean? That means that we have worked with the project developer, we have helped them with their business plan, we've helped them with their investment pitch, we help them with technology reviews. We do not write their business plan, we do not fund their feasibility studies, but we're their advisor. And so those 126 companies have been able to secure financing. So that's a success rate of about 20%, which is not bad. We'd like it to be better, but those are pretty good odds in the marketplace today. The total is about $1.7 billion of investment. Last year alone, we helped 19 companies in Asia raise about $228 million. So these are our partners, and this is not a complete list, it's dynamic. We're sort of adding new partners every week, but this is the range of organizations that we work with. So that includes venture capital companies, corporations that have venture capital, includes sort of accelerators like the Digital Economy Promotion Agency in Thailand, banks, Export-Import Bank of Thailand, Philippines Export-Import Credit Agency. You have NGOs like WWF in Myanmar. You have programs like USAID, Green Invest Asia. So we're quite inclusive, and all we ask for partners that want to work with us is just some commitment to have some activities that would lead towards more projects that can be coached and to help them get investment. So this is just a look at South Asia, and Sujan has been quite active. We have almost a quarter of the projects in South Asia are actually being in Nepal right now. We have a lot in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, as well as Sri Lanka. And this is the range of projects. So this really shows two things. One is that we're all over the place in terms of technology. This is for South Asia again. Sure, we have a lot of mini hydro, we have a lot of solar, but we've got energy efficiency projects, we have off-grid projects, we have clean transport, and so we sort of follow the market. so this is a snapshot in time, and I expect that this will shift more towards sustainable transport and more probably distributed energy. But we think distributed transport will be really big. We think things like off-grid solutions, energy access will continue to grow as a share. And so my message to those of you here and to people in your network is that, you know, we're open for business. We have really changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years since we were a USAID program and we became sort of a global network under UNIDO. But the way people can participate as project developers, they can submit an application and then access free coaching. For investors, they can join and do joint outreach with us to help identify projects and then benefit from projects in our pipeline, taking a look at them for potential investment opportunities. And then for other organizations like AEPC, for example, or some of like the NGOs I mentioned, or organizations like the Confederation of Indian Industries in India, we have many network partners who work with stakeholders or are associations supporting clean energy or climate action, who can work with us to get the word out and to do joint outreach. So this is how you can contact us. Sujan is your key contact. Myself, based in Bangkok, and also my colleague Nancy Nguyen, who is Vietnamese and is the support manager for Asia. So with that, thank you very much. I'll pass it back to Vishwa, and I really look forward to hearing some more about what is going on in Nepal, in the clean energy and climate space, and how we can work with you and how I can support Sujan and his team.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for your very illustrative presentation. I see my video is not working properly, so nonetheless, next I'd like to invite Sujan to make his presentation. He's PFAN's country director country coordinator in Nepal. He's also associated with earlier versions of PFAN, and he also mentors and projects for clean and climate projects. He has MBA. He is an MBA graduate, and also in the past he has worked for Clean Energy Development Bank, and also extensive knowledge and experience of manufacturing industries in Nepal. With that brief background, it's over to you, Sujan. Sujan?
Please. Yeah, can you hear me, right?
Yeah.
So, is this screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yes, it is visible. Okay. Thank you. Namaskar and very warm welcome to everyone once again. I'm Sujan Paudel. I'm PFAN country coordinator for Nepal. Today, I'm going to explain the services that PFAN offers to the project developers and how they can avail these services. Well, since Peter has already explained what PFAN is and what it isn't, so I'm skipping this slide for now. PFAN basically operates as a bridge between the clean energy developers and clean energy investors. We realize that public funding alone isn't enough to fight the climate change. We need to mobilize private investment into this sector. And that's where PFAN comes into play. PFAN matches the clean energy projects with the clean energy investors. So developing infrastructure project is a very challenging job, and it's more so the case in countries like Nepal. There are many obstacles. So among those obstacles, PFAN mainly addresses a subset of obstacles like lack of access to finance for project developers, lack of knowledge, experience, credibility on part of both the investors as well as the project developers. And we often find that there is a mismatch of expectation between project developers and the investors. So we try to address these issues, and in doing so, we reduce the high transaction cost for each parties. PFAN offers 4 primary modalities of support. So once the project applies with the PFAN and once it gets selected for this support, in the first stage, PFAN appoints an expert mentor who will work with the project developer in screening and analyzing the existing documents, business plan, their financial and their business model, this revenue structure, business structure, and find out the key gaps that needs to be fulfilled before the project can be presented to the investors. The mentor will also help in devising a time frame and action plan that needs to be taken to address these issues. And in the second stage, we call this strategic advisory and mentoring. The project developer will work with the mentor in refining the existing business plan, in refining the business model, in developing an interactive financial spreadsheet, teaser, executive summary, investment page, so that the project can now be presented to the investors. So in the third stage, we call it investment promotion and outreach. PFAN has a dedicated investment facilitation team. So in this stage, the project developer will work with the mentor as well as the investment facilitation team in order to find suitable investor for the project. PFAN also provides various platforms where the project developers can directly pitch to the investors themselves. The investment facilitation team will also help the project developer to negotiate term sheet or any activities that needs to be carried out to close the deal. We also have this tipping point technical assistance support. This is a very targeted assistance that addresses obstacles that is preventing the project developer from getting financing. For example, investor might say, I'm ready to invest in your project, but first I need to have the impact study done. So in this case, what PFAN does is PFAN supports the project developer in carrying out that particular study at PFAN's cost. PFAN has a limited budget, but nonetheless, this is a very useful tool to have. And PFAN supports those projects in anticipation of financial closure. So if by providing the support, if the project gets the financing closure, PFAN does it. So we call it tipping point technical assistance. Not all the projects will get all four kind of support, 4 stages of support. If the project is, for example, if the project is matured enough, then and if they have a business plan investment is ready, then that project can be inducted into the 3rd stage, investment facilitation stage. So that's the basic modality of support that PFAN provides to the project developer. And besides that, there are certain advantages of PFAN. Like for investors, it provides access to the deal pipeline. So we have many projects in pipeline. Investors can have access to that pipeline. Likewise, the project developers will have access to investors. And it also adds credibility. I have few bankers friend, and they ask me if I can recommend them some projects from our pipeline, because they know that PFAN has a very rigorous selection process. And if a project is under PFAN support, that means it must be good enough. So it adds credibility to the project. And PFAN has been long enough in this climate space, and it knows what works and what doesn't. So we can leverage that experience, that knowledge for the betterment of project development. One of the key aspects of PFAN support is de-risking. De-risking for both the developer as well as the investor. PFAN, by its global experience, knows the key risk points that it needs to target in order to de-risk. And in doing so, we reduce the transaction cost for all the parties, leads to resource optimization, and the whole thing accelerates the development progress of the project. So PFAN, Peter already explained the sector that can apply for PFAN support. I mean, a whole range of projects can now apply for the support. For example, agriculture, if the project developer is deploying a technology that saves water, that's fine, they can apply. Urban development, we have energy efficient housing, smart cities, even microfinance. If they're lending on this kind of activities, they can apply for PFAN support. So a whole range of projects can apply. All they have to do is to demonstrate that they contribute to decrease in climate vulnerability or increase in climate resilience. What we're looking for is in terms of investment size between $1 to 50 million. But in case of Nepal, we even accept below that threshold, provided that the project is impactful enough and scalable. We are technology neutral and we do not usually advise on technology. But then the desired characteristics of the projects, the most important thing is management team. The project has to be also commercially and technically viable, because we do not deal with grant. We deal with a private investment, and they will come only if the project is commercially or technically viable. Besides, the project must have a scalable potential, and it must have development and climate impact. So these are the selection criteria that we use. As I said earlier, that you can see the management team is given the highest weightage. That's because unless the investor believes that the management team has the capability to take the project to conclusion, he won't be investing in it. So management team must have very good credentials, past track record, experience. Likewise, there are other criteria as well. In financials, they not only look at the investment and return, but also the exit options that are available to them. Risk, it's not an academic exercise only. Risk is an inherent part of any project development. But then it's important how the developers propose to mitigate the risks. The project must also have gender, environmental, and social benefits. That's a weight for project maturity as well. Even though we accept all kinds of projects, be it greenfield, scale-up project, expansion, but then the weightage is given more to the project which are closer to be able to be presented to the investor. So these are the selection criteria that we use to select a project. So how can we apply? We can apply through the website, our website, and first we have to register. And after registration, PFAN will send an email with a link to upload the project proposal. And then the project proposal along with the financial spreadsheet and other supporting documents needs to be uploaded. And there are certain data that also needs to be filled, like a company structure, the amount of greenhouse gas that the project is expected to save, and so on. And once the project is evaluated, and if it is selected, PFAN will establish contact with the project developer. PFAN will also appoint an expert coach, and who will advise the next steps. We have a call for proposals open throughout the year. But the catch is that PFAN evaluates the projects on quarterly basis. So for this particular quarter, the deadline is 1st September 2020, meaning any applications received within this deadline is evaluated within immediately after that period. And any applications received after 1st September will be evaluated after 3 months. So we still have plenty of time to apply for this quarter itself. And so let's do it. And if we don't meet this quarter, obviously there's another quarter. So you can, for any matter related to PFAN services or any assistance that you may require to fill the application form, You can contact me. You can directly write to me, email me, text me, or call me. So at any time. I'll be very happy to help you. I can also forward you step-by-step guide as how to apply. If you feel like contacting our regional coordinator, Peter, that's his email. And please do visit our website, pfan.net. It's a very comprehensive website, and it explains a lot of things. And for project developer, almost everything you'll find in that site. So please do visit that site. So that I end my presentation here. Thank you so much for your patience. Back to you, Bisuji.
Okay, thank you, Sujanji, for your perspective from Nepal side on top of what Peter presented us, the detailed global perspective. Now, next, I would like to request Madhusudanji from the APC to make his presentation. Like he's currently the executive director of the APC. His contribution and involvement in renewable energy and hydro sector in Nepal includes his recent one, apart from ED of APC, is he was a renewable energy expert in Myanmar, looking after a large-scale solar project of World Bank. And prior to that, he has been a program manager at the various level in the renewable energy sector in Nepal. That includes various donors like Denmark, Norway, World Bank, ADB, KfW, so on and so forth. The list is quite long. He has also served in private sector organization at the executive level in a hydropower equipment manufacturing company. This is not the comprehensive or complete list of his involvement, but this shows his dimension or his areas. And he is mechanical engineer by training and holds a degree in MBA and lots of training and lots and lots of training. With that, I will let Mr. Adhikari to start his presentation. Mr. Adhikari, it's over to you.
Thank you, Bisu sir. Good afternoon to everyone. This is first time I'm interacting with Peter, so nice to meet you, Peter. Good evening and namaste to all the participant colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here. I think we have very nice discussions, but I have to admit that I was not quite familiar with the PFAN activities in Nepal, which is a bit strange. I missed it somehow. I definitely will inquire more on that because we are in the same platform working together. I heard the presentation from Peter and Sujanji. It's quite informative about the organization and the kind of support it really brings in. As you all know, I am currently in AEPC, which is a government agency, basically working from long time in renewable energy. We have been presenting our things in many forums. So this information, what I'm going to share with you, are maybe not new to many of you, but these are a kind of statistics and the information we normally share, that we are active in the market. There are issues, there are a lot to be done, and then we have been passing through the different phases in the case of Nepal, because when we go back 20 years behind, the electricity, modern energy access was quite low, and we had a very typical geographical situation. And then we have very particular energy resources. We thought our hydro resources are very easy and enough to get it all access to modern energy through it. But over a period of time, we had our own lesson learning. So the contribution from other sources was also noticeable, and it is creating its own space. So I am just moving ahead with the small introduction of AEPC. If any of you have been new to this webinar, it is established in 1996. This is currently under Ministry of Energy and Water Resources, but it was for most of its service period in the Ministry of Environment. It's basically coordinating the renewable energy things in Nepal. We have a debate here, what is renewable, because most of the energy sources are renewable in Nepal. We have hydro and other renewable. Many places the terms are used in that way. Recently also mandated to do the energy efficiency work. Just as a start beginning on working on this area. One milestone we consider, we are accredited to GCF. The accreditation process is just completed. Our agreement is effective from June this year, so we are already active in the Green Climate Fund. Also supporting new structures in the federal structures, which is newly promulgated through our new constitution. The country is divided into federal states, and then we're supporting a federal government in energy, and particularly renewable energy. And we have been in a partnership in our working modalities from the beginning, basically the private sector and lot of development agencies, external development partners. So we are not typical government budget-led organization. We had quite a good blending of all these financing arrangement in our projects. The areas we focus to help the government is basically access to clean energy. The agenda, now we use the term leave no one behind, LNOB concept. To the extent possible, let's reach to everyone in the fastest possible time. Then we can catch up with the most sustainable technology. Energy access is one thing, and then energy livelihood, how to use energy. Sometimes use these things, how can we increase the livelihood, and the energy mostly goes to the middle class people, missing middles. These concepts are discussing many ways. Access to electricity, now the government has announced that by 2023, all Nepal will have some kind of access to electricity. Increase energy mix and improve energy efficiency, that's another area where we are supporting government. Exclusively in clean cooking solutions, that we mandated by 2030, that we are exclusively supporting government on different front in this clean cooking solutions. And of course, anything new and innovative in RE, we are the one who try to understand and try to advise government to move on these areas if they are relevant to Nepal. So, and when you talk in the particularly on the financing things, which is the agenda today, I think PFAN is basically focusing on helping this issue. We have kind of 5 models in this area. The first and foremost is we have been heavily working on administrating the government subsidy in the renewable energy sector, basically focusing on access to clean and renewable energy. Our model from the beginning was going with private sector. We call it a market-led model. Basically, the subsidy is administered through private channel. So it was a government fund reaching people by private marketing channel, which was a very successful kind of low-cost delivery modality, we believe. Then we are now moving to more output-oriented phases, which call viability gap financing to support private sector developer. This concept is all over, and we are also trying to move from subsidy to the VGF. That VGF are of different models, and then we are also kind of working with the challenge fund concept, which is also partly the VGF, but it has its one process. We are also holding hand-holding developers to qualify to the challenge funds. That's also basically targeted to private sector partnership funding. We're also trying to open up the window of this long-term credit financing through the multilateral funding to our case-specific energy enterprising issues. Basically, we are working with ADB, World Bank, KfW, and others. And the last one is, of course, that the new avenue we are working on is GCF and carbon financing. This is the era of this financing model for RE. So we are there. We are already working to develop projects. One project is already registered as a concept, and then the final funding proposal, we want to meet the target of this August board meeting, if we are lucky, through our process. So these 5 areas of financing support, the services we provide to end customer are, of course, the energy beneficiaries, but through the market private channels. On the specific areas, if you don't mind giving me a little bit more time, giving you the information, I have some statistics here. So in this energy access issues, we had quite a big micro mini hydro project program where we have constructed around 1900 micro hydro projects, which are bigger than 10 kilowatts, accumulating around 33 megawatt of energy, and 330,000 households got benefit of this. It's also through the private sector, the sequence supply, delivery, and this construction all done through the private sector. We still have the inventory of these many projects. Many of them are running on their own health conditions. They are not all very healthy. Some are having a hard time to run, but as long as there is no electricity, the community and the private sectors are managing to run them most of the time in the year. We are also working currently the new avenue and the solar mini grid, solar wind mini grid hybrid, which has just 1 megawatt enough of total energy already generated, around 3,700 households getting services on that. These are more sustainable, bigger solution ranging from 10 to 150 to 100 kilowatt size. Not many numbers, but this is just I think it's last 5 years basically focusing on that. The home system, solar home lighting system, which was very popular in our contest. We reached around 1 million through the private sector. Subsidy given by the government, the financing shared by the beneficiaries through the private sector. We reach around million household, but many of these households in the lower side of mountains are now crossed by the grid, but we still think 500,000 are working to their own conditions. We also had the targeted who cannot support to get these marketed mechanism. We have around 24,000 targeted, which get mostly free. That's one, the last one in the pyramid, that the bottom of the pyramid got almost free solutions. This is the lighting front. Then in cooking front also, we had a very, very successful, many of you know the biogas program. We have a record of around 430,000 domestic biogas plants constructed. We still believe many of them are working because we have registered 60-70% of them in the CDM project. We annually monitor them. We had a very remarkable campaign, I would say, this on the improving the mud stove. We reached to 1.3 million household. We improve once these kind of number of stoves in the across the country. This was it was a kind of initiative for that time, and then it was very popular. We have no idea how many these people we reached first time have adopted it for the along their life. Hopefully, maybe at least 50%, they might have continuously improved design in their house. But of course, with the time, many houses are reached by grid and by LPG also. So there could be another solution already installed. But that was a very, very acknowledged program of that time, that we reached to so many households, and it's basically led by the women, or the women. So there was kind of a very popular program. We have the metallic ICS, basically in the high mountain area where you need to warm your house by your fireplace. We have around 37,000 of this metallic ICS installed in the mountain region, basically because of the temperature and the cooking practices and the heating practices. These all things we establish from the beginning. We have a small financing wing. We used to call that renewable energy financing mechanism. Before it was run by the APC for some years. Then from 2015, we had a mechanism in the arm length of APC, that Central Renewable Energy Fund. In last from 2015, this fund is managing all these subsidies and the credit windows. And from that fund itself, we have rolled around 5.3 billion rupees. That's, I think, around 50 million or 45 to 50 million dollar in the subsidy, and then the credit around 20 million. That's the exclusive arrangement we established with the support of this our external development partners. The concept is still running, and we want to scale it up. Then we want to bring it to an agreement of many financing agencies, and I would like to let it go. There has been some discussion that after the new constitution, all the fund has to be enacted by an act. So we are proposing an act to establish this fund in more robust way. And then this viability gap financing, basically we working with microfinance, this small and medium enterprises to start up their business, giving them some financing to buy some machines, equipment, and we reached around 1,500 such businesses financing their processing equipment, basically focusing in the micro hydro areas to increase the power consumption of the plant and increase the livelihood of the communities. We have also started to work on the rooftop solar. Around 5 megawatt equivalent projects, around 35 projects are given these interest subsidy to encourage them to have commercially viable rooftop scheme. These schemes are up to 500-600 kilowatt, basically adopted by the factories and commercial enterprises. It's coming one of the popular program because still the current tariff rate, the NEA electricity rate comes around 15-16 rupees to the commercial entities, where there is a scope that if a CNI install its one captive plant, of course the NEA grid is needed, then they can save some of the energy cost, which we believe will reflect in the product prices to have the competitive advantage for the industry. So we are looking forward to roll this program in more bigger scale. We have biogas program, large biogas program also supporting the viability gap, waste to energy, big projects, 7 big projects of size around 4,000 cubic meter are under construction. We have done around 307 large, means not all very large, but mostly we define anything bigger than 12 meter cube is large, but real large project are 7. So we rate them around 300,000, 500 to and above, or 3,000 cubic meter and above. So these projects look very impressive and very acknowledged. We are partnering this with World Bank. We have been running a micro hydro debt fund. That micro hydro debt fund also supported to construct more micro hydros with the loan concept. We have supported 30 projects and then around 72 million rupees. This is not large, but a kind of noble concept to have credit kind of mechanism in the micro hydro fund. It was not that easy, but still we are pushing it to complete and construct some more micro hydros. Similarly, we had the biogas credit program supported through KFW, and then we had supported around 50,000 biogas plant with investment of 428 million rupees. That also helped biogas farmers to construct these biogas through some cooperative loans. We have run this small farmer irrigation program, around 2,000 irrigation pumps installed in the partnership with the farmers. We give them around 60% of the total cost and 40% of the cost, basically the boreholes, the water distribution systems and other civil construction has to be done by the farmers, and then power generating and pump set will be provided through the subsidy. Institution, government institution, all these public institution we powered mainly in partner with the institution, and we reached around 2,100 such institution. So in the new,
can we quickly summarize now, because we have very little time left and we need some time for question and answer session.
Okay, thank you. I think the Sustainable Energy Challenge Fund, another modality which we have developed now through the DFID support. We have proposed 8 avenues for this. You can see in the screen. We want to support most of the ideas, new and innovative ideas through the viability funding mechanism. Demand aggregation, reverse auctions, micro mini grids, interest subsidy buy down, tariff top up, innovative REP projects, loan loss guarantees, all this mechanism we want to promote through challenge funds. We have a fund from DFID that will be basically rolled in the beginning and then joined by others. In the long-term scenario also, we have some ADB, World Bank, ADFT loan. We are basically 10 million ADFT loan channelized to big biogas and other in pipeline. The GCF, our carbon portfolio is from CDM. We have we have received around $16.5 million so far from our 8 project registered even CCC. We are only DAE so far. Now 10 ideas are under rolling. We have planned to complete these 10 ideas within 2 to 3 years time, amounting around 300 million equivalent of joint financing from GCF and the other proponent of the project. Recently, we are also nominated as a delivery partner to the DNA MOF, so we'll definitely supporting others interested parties in the GCA processes. Going forward, I think it's going to repeat again. The viability gap for funding, challenge fund, public partnership, and GCFs are the avenue we are looking more than subsidy regime now. We definitely want to welcome anyone joining this kind of concept to the Nepalese government, and then happy to negotiate or partner with the kind of working modalities. Issues, I think, still quite hydro-dominated discussion. People think hydro is also renewable. Why should we focusing on other areas since we are a country full of renewable hydro? So that's still a lot of discussion in the policy level. Cost of technologies are still on a questions, and a small level is okay, but in a bigger scale, what if it will competitive or not to compare to hydro? For project financing and collateral issues are there because these other technologies might not have very robust project financing backgrounds. RE developers still seek venture capital. I still need to go to the more blended finance and other financing model than just seeking for the venture capitalist. I think Peter mentioned there are a lot of fund available, but still I think the low cost of commercial fund is still high for RE projects, so need more soft funds. In our case, the state utility is still the monopoly to energy buy and sell, so the rates are important. Electric Regulatory Commission is not stepped into these areas fully, so the PPAs, take or pay, these issues are still be resolved to bring all small and big initiatives finance to generate energy at the reliability of getting paid for all the energy generated are issues to the small developers. Some environmental issue with solar off-grid is there. The battery issues are still needs to resolve. So these are the issues people are still discussing on the financing side. This is, I think, what I have from this presentation. Thank you for the time. Sorry for a bit late, the lengthy presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madhusudanji, for your very comprehensive presentation. It took a little long, but nonetheless, it was very useful for all, I'm sure. Now we are going into question answer session. I have been monitoring the chat box. We have seen a lot of questions there, and also being spontaneously answered by Peter and Susan regarding questions on PFAN and its modality and various ways how it operates. And I will quickly go through some of the important ones so that rest of the participants who are not monitoring the chat box will benefit. Basically, PFAN is not limited to only hydro or only big projects, as it was communicated. Biomass is also open, and so on and so forth. And there was a question whether what kind of investment PFAN supports, is it equity or loan? I think it can facilitate both, although it does not do investment on its own. That is the concept. And that was a question from the Premji. And then there was a question from Professor Jagannath Shrestha, whether the success rate of 18% was good enough. Then there was also, it was answered by Peter that because many kinds of business idea erupt and come to PFAN, and having 18% success rate is not really very bad, although we would love to have it much bigger number. I think those are the few questions that would attract the interest of everybody. There was also a question on the de-risking investment. Well, we have mentors and we have advisors who actually helps in doing this through various analysis and linking the project's developer with various agencies, that helps in de-risking the project. I think with that quick summarization of what's going on chat box, it's not everything, but the key ones. I would like to go now for the question answer session. You can raise your hand through your chat box, I mean participant list or chat box, if you have any burning questions right now, or you can continue writing your questions on the chat box. To give you more brief on this, I will give turn by turn to Peter, Susan, and Madhusudanji to address some of the issues or some of the questions that has come up on the chat box. First, let me hand it over to Peter to address some of the things which are more interesting and important for the rest of the participants. Peter.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Vishwa. And thank you, Adhikari, for that excellent overview of all of the opportunities and challenges in Nepal. And yeah, I mean, I think, PFAN, we work in a certain area which is pretty private sector focused. We work with project developers. We should probably get out more and have a bit more profile sometimes in some of the policy discussions. We're really fortunate to have AEPC here today, but we really value the partnership with local agencies such as yours who are trying to move things forward and look to seek ways to cooperate, which leads to a question that Indira asked, is what are the plus points of PFAN in comparison to other FIs? Well, I think the first thing is we're really, really different. We're not, we don't provide financing. So we're not a financial institution. We only provide coaching and technical assistance. And it's really low cost. I mean, the total amount of funding, if you can believe this, for this, our global network with all of the regional networks that I showed you is less than $3 million. So we're very low overhead, inexpensive program. Every dollar we spend on coaching and assistance leads to about $60 of investment. So, that's why sometimes we don't go to some of the meetings on policies. We don't provide technical assistance or training, but we work with others who do. We really focus to what we do well. So, that I think it's important to just that is our niche, and I would say a lot of other programs have, working with the private sector, and we're really focused on the commercial. As Vishwa said, we're really focused on the commercial projects. That's why, if we wanted to have a success rate of 80%, we would only pick the projects that were really ready to get financed anyway. So we work with a lot of projects that need help. Sometimes it takes a year or two before we can get them to where they're financed. There's a question, Vishwa asked a question about any special plans for the Nepal market. I think Sujan's plan is to, expand into different areas where there's project developers with, interesting projects. He's been doing more solar lately, and I think I'll let him answer that. I'll hand that over to you. But before that, Sujan, I just say one thing about grants, because Adhikari talked about grants as well. And we're all in favor of early stage grants. We think that they're important. But we actually discourage, for the companies that we work with, we discourage them from chasing grants. Because grants can make you feel like you're actually getting somewhere, but until you build up your customer base, you're never going to become commercial. So we think grants are good. We let our project developers know about grants that are coming up, but we don't suggest that they spend a lot of time doing it. It's much better to use the grant to sort of build knowledge of the market. I do think it's important, since we have limited time, Sujan, to answer that really good question about plans for the Nepal market. Over to you, Sujan.
Thank you,
Yes.
Peter. And
Pick it up from there.
yeah, thank you. So, in expand different
You are breaking up.
projects already in the pipeline, but then okay. So, but then we realized that solar and biomass they also have a potential. So, we'd like the reason why we are having this particular webinar in partnership with RECON is because we want to expand our sources beyond hydros. So that's one thing. The other thing that I get a lot of question about is that how long does it take? How long does it take for the project to reach the financial closure stage? It's a tricky question to answer actually, because the projects are at different stages of maturities, and they move at different speeds. So it's a case-to-case basis. So yes, it takes a lot of time, not because PFAN is doing it, but fundraising is a very time-consuming process. Having said that, PFAN has got expertise in this thing. It has got investment facilitation team. So we are working our best to speed up things. But then yes, it does take some time. Then there are questions related to technologies like do we support biomass? Yes, we do. We do, and in fact, we already have one very, very good project with us in our pipeline. We do support any renewable energy project that has PPA. So anything over $1 million in size. So anything over half a megawatt or 1 megawatt, we do support that. Apart from that, there's a great scope for energy efficiency. It's a low-hanging fruit, we all know. So we can look into that as well. I think Peter has already answered regarding the success fee. It depends upon case to case, and it is negotiated. But then the standard is 1 to 2% for debt and 4 to 5% for equity. Lots of projects come to us seeking debt from foreign countries. So we usually do not encourage that because of the exchange rate risk. We do that, but then really, we do not encourage them unless and until we have this hedging mechanism in place. It's very difficult to source foreign debt. But as for foreign equity, there are lots of projects that are applying with PFAN. But then for debt, I think Nepal's banking system is capable of financing debt for now. And recent monetary policy has mandated banks to increase their portfolio in renewable energy sector. So that will make sourcing debt much easier. I think if I missed any questions, please you can write to me at my email ID. I'll be happy to respond to that. Or you can contact RECON and they will be connecting you to us. So it was very interactive session, and I hope it's been useful to all of us. So back to you, Biswajit.
Yes, Susan, there was a question actually from me, like can PFAN does the refinancing of the project that is already completed? That's one thing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We usually do not refinance any project unless it is scaling up in capacity. So if the project is already built, it's not helping. I mean, by refinancing, we are not helping climate anymore. But if it is expanding, yes.
Yeah, I would say, just to add to that, Sujan, we're quite interested in green bonds. And we've been talking to the Climate Bond Initiative about, ADB, for example, in Thailand has helped a couple of the energy companies issue green bonds, the first green bonds in the power sector in Thailand. So if one company was B Grimm, another company was Energy Absolute. And that would be, we have not done that yet. We need to find the right sort of client who would issue the green bond to generate liquidity to do further investment, as Sujan mentions. That requires a higher level of sort of sophistication and planning in terms of working. And we have not yet had someone come to us. Remember, we don't develop the projects. We look at, what the market needs. But I think we would probably do some green bond investment sometime in the next year or two. And if it's okay, Vishwa, I'd like to answer Roshan's question, or
please.
address Roshan's
Yeah,
question
go ahead.
Okay, about hydrogen solar hybrid. I have two comments. One relates to the technology and one relates to how we could work with AEPC. So using very low cost renewable energy to basically electrolyze water and generate hydrogen is a really good idea. And in the future, as you get very low cost solar and you have small hydro where you have lots of water, you can make hydrogen and use it as a storage medium. I mean, we think that's an interesting technology, but really at the end of the day, it just has to be commercial, right? So if there's a gap between the early stage technology and getting it commercial, and then the question Roshan goes on further to ask is, could AEPC help with a feasibility study? I'll let Adhikari address that, but in principle, that could be a good partnership where there's a project that may need a feasibility study that AEPC could be helping with. And once that feasibility study is done, we can actually take the project developer with that and help them get the investment. So that is a sort of thing. So PFAN does not fund business plans. We don't fund feasibility studies. The one thing we do have besides the coaching, which Sujan mentioned, if you have a project and you have an investor who's ready and they may need one particular technical study in order to sign the contract for the investment, then we have this tipping point assistance, which can be up to $50,000. But that's sort of rare, but we don't do the early stage feasibility. But someone like AEPC, you've got these funds and grants that you want to get to move to finance, so that could be a good way for us to work together, possibly. Over to you, Adhikari.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, particularly to this particular question, yes, I have got some requests to go into this area. Even Kathmandu University has requested me that how can we move into this. I had a couple of discussions with them, and then we have planned this year in our program to do a pilot, maybe in the laboratory or in the microhydro site, but I have in my program that I would like to support one pilot hydrogen energy project. I don't know how much it cost. I don't have that big money, but at least in the laboratory level or in the field level, feasibility, I think is one important thing. But these discussions are on in many countries. The hydrogen energy is very much commercialized, including Korea and other places. Few enthusiasts also in Nepal have already tried some. I have heard and met one guy from Butwal. He was running a car in the hydrogen energy. He has a small box of electrolysis built inside in this thing and running. So yeah, I think we can have a discussion. I have something in mind to do this related to hydrogen energy. So we can have a discussion. And we can look for more resources, and in particular cases like in the micro hydro, that inquiry has also received that the load factor of most of the micro hydro is very low. We can use that energy, but again, the supply chain and the other economics and the market, so many things comes into play. in general, yeah, our concept of this run of river capacity, even any is worried about spillover in the summer evening, night. How can we use that energy? We don't have any pump storage scheme. So either we should charge battery or electrolyze it to get hydrogen. I think these are the options that people are still not very much decisive on that, but I think these are the ways where you can use your spillover energy to store in different forms, unless if we have very good relation with the bigger market for the energy banking or real-time exchange, then maybe we can live with other option as well. So I think these ideas are under discussion in Nepal, and I would like to have some enthusiasts to come and let's discuss in the table to move on that. One more question I see from Indiraji related to APC, saying why APC has not supported solar cell manufacture in Nepal. I can see a lot of solar friends faces in this webinar also. We have this discussion now and then, but of course the main issue is the market size and economy of scale. Being very close to the two big giant manufacturing hubs, that question was always unanswered. What kind of size is the most economical size, and what could be the price? Some initiatives will also happen in that line, but yeah, it's always a question of a price. So it's still on, but still, I recently met a French company coming with a joint venture in Nepal. They asked me the tentative market size for coming 5 to 10 years. I gathered some information and gave to them. They are exploring whether they can have the solar cell or the module integrator in Nepal, most likely the module indicator than the cell. So yeah, this is important question, but still as a market survey is needed. That's what I see in the chat box. If anyone has any other queries in the information I have shared, or the other future plan of the Nepalese government on that issue, I can try to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adhikariji. I think Sudanji, there is one question from Krishna about he has a project of something like 1.5 megawatt. Can you look at that?
Yeah, in fact, I have replied to him in the chat box itself. Yes, he can apply with us. And regarding time frame, I said earlier that it's a project specific case. So we have to understand his project before we can give him idea. But yes, I mean, it takes time. I mean, it's a time-taking process. The fundraising in itself is a time-taking process. But then yes, he can apply with us, and we can see from there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and Vishwa, if I could just add to that, I think the general answer to all of these questions about can a community biogas company that works with the government get support from PFAN? How can a private sector company working in cook stoves get support from PFAN? Can hydrogen generation, could a hydrogen hybrid project developer? The answer is yes, emphatically yes, if you have a business plan and you have some credible financials showing how you're going to get revenue. If you have an idea, but you don't know who your customers are, then you're not ready for PFAN, right? If you don't really know the market, you're not ready for PFAN. For the community biomass, the only caveat there is that the company needs to be, it can be a community cooperative, but it has to be profitable. It has to be generating a surplus, right? So if it's just enough to get by and, sustainable on a very small, low level, but we're generally looking for projects that could either expand themselves, or if it could be a model across communities across the country. And really the goal is to support projects that can get to an investor within 6 to 9 months, right? Because we've had projects that they just don't have it together. They just don't really know the market. They don't have off-takers. And we spend a year and a half, 2 years, and it's really not a good use of our time, or, that's not, we have to help the companies that are close enough that need a little bit of help to get to the investor.
Yeah, thank you. In general, I think we conclude the question and answer session with that. But before we go to Gunrajji for thanking all the participants, let me also come in with some indications or some notes that as the name goes, this is a private financing advisory, right? So definitely, like if there are a lot of questions I saw about the research and development and things like that, I would say we will have to source it to some different kind of development agency for seeking that kind of support for research and development and pilot projects. But what is interesting here for PFAN is if the technology is viable, it's commercially viable, and if we can demonstrate that this can be commercially done within the country's whatever financing network environment, yes, of course, PFAN we should be more than happy to get involved with the project. Correct me if I am wrong, Peter, on that. And then after that, I'd like Gunrajji to step in and thank all the participants and things like that, and close the webinar.
Thank you, Vishwanath sir, for nice moderating and conducting the program. And dear respected Peter too, and our guest Madhusudan Adhikari from APC, Susan Podel from PFAN, and all of participants. I would like to express my thanks. And we did a very nice discussions and fruitful interaction for the project financing, and there is a PFAN for the supporting private sector for the equity investment. So I would like to heartily thanks for your nice and Renewable Energy Confederation of Nepal. Since last 4 years, we are putting voice on the need of financial system to be enhanced, reformed for the promotion and development of renewable energy technology to the desired level. Some influential interaction and discussion program were also organized to turn out the best of idea and experience, so as to the stakeholders such as manufacturer, supplier, installer, communities, institutions, household level consumers, to get the renewable energy at financeable, workable price level. The private sector is one of the vital level of the stakeholder. We have to provide better supply and services at the cheapest price, but support to this segment of the stakeholder is not friendly from the government side or donor side, because the government also try to get the safe sites and other also. So private sector is suffering some of the problems. So on the top of that, there are some other checklist and fulfill the lengthy and laborious and lengthy paper works, and which makes the expensive. So government document also speaks on electricity to be access to every household and also to industries, mobility, health, communication, and agricultural sector. In global campaigns like Sustainable Development Goal, Sustainable Energy for All, clean cooking solutions are also taken as the guidelines in promotion of the renewable energy technologies. Renewable energy technology adapted as far as the alternative energy technologies that are successful in providing electrical energy to the people who reside in the remote mountain hills and arid plains. Micro hydropower scheme, solar PV, solar thermal, biogas plant, improved stocks are all the main technology intervened. Alternative Energy Promotion Center the Alternative Energy Promotion Center is the nodal agency of the government to provide the technical and financial assistance to the user as the domestic, community, or institutional level in Nepal. The programs conducted by APC are very highly successful to the harnessing around 3.6 households, communities, and institutions. Subsidy has been provided to the household level, community, institutions, and all, as well as private entrepreneurship for installing renewable energy technologies as needed, as suitable. Other than subsidy, the user invests their own fund support from the development institution and try to get credit for the financial institution. Government had formulated renewable energy subsidy mechanism and revised in time to time for the contemporary context. APC had developed Central Renewable Energy Fund, which is called in TREP, within a mechanism to channelize subsidy and finalizing support since last 5-6 years. As per the Constitution of Nepal, in the change context, all three levels of government are in the spirit of the promotion of renewable energy technology with financial and technical supports to the users. While the role of local government are significant to intervene, similarly, the private sector is trying to be compatible with the government and authorities. Now the time has to come to activate private sector in financing for approximately operationalize their business. So as entrepreneurs could be generating their technical and managerial efficiency to make the service and the system accessible, available and affordable to the household, community, industry, or institutions. Here, we are focusing on the benefit to the users, more including unprivileged communities. In order to borrow knowledge and experience of respective institutions, RECON is recently had conducted a series of meetings with different but prestigious and active organizations that are NREP, GIZ, RERA, KFW, ADB Nepal, and Nepal Rashtra Bank, and so on, and like PFAN also. We're going to hold a webinar with all the other important organizations to share the knowledge, experience, and our influential document, which are outcome of our discussions of the previous. So we are planning to make it happen very soon. RECON had been working together with Green and Inclusive Energy Program, which is also known as GIE project, which is supporting actively likewise for the cooperation of the consortium partners organization involved in GIE project with more effective in this regards. RECON has been creating a suitable ground to work with the private financing advisory network, which offers free coaching and investor matchmaking to promise climate and clean energy business in low and middle income countries. PFAN manage an expensive pipeline of investment ready project. Since 2016, PFAN is hosted and managed by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Partnership. PFAN is active in Nepal with the purpose and mandate. Working together with Renewable Energy Confederation of Nepal, the both entities are jointly organized this webinar today to introduce PFAN to the stakeholder of the RE sector of Nepal. In the webinar, Mr. Dupont, Asian Regional Coordinator of PFAN, is here with us. We will explain more in detail about the PFAN, how it works, and its relevance in Nepal market. Like what Susan Podel, with the country coordinator of PFAN, who is explaining about more details. And Madhusudan Adhikari, who is the executive director of APC, also presenting and facilitating how we can work in like utilize this type of opportunity in the context of Nepal for the promotion of the renewable energy development and coordinating the financial institution like PFAN. And we are very thankful to Mr. Visubhasan Amate, who is the senior renewable energy expert and advisor of the RECON. He has successfully moderated the program as per the best of knowledge is sharing and facilitating to the PFAN and all the stakeholder. So RECON we are considering this online event is fruitful for the promotion and investor of the climate and clean energy and energy efficiency project, and enterprises is expected to highly benefit from the interaction. And so relevant supply chain experts and technical and financial consultants are also benefited with this from this seminar. And government agency also we are actually involved in policy formulation and planning are also benefited by this interaction discussion. So I'm fully committed to provide the best outcome, and you can also provide us the comment, feedback and suggestion by email and by direct or indirect method. And we are very happy to supply the outcome of this event with the relevant stakeholder. So thank you so much for attending fully with this very fruitful interaction. And thank you.
Thank you and bye. I think we are closing the session now.
Thank you. Bye.